Cinderella. Once upon a time, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She had once been happy, living with her loving mother and father, but when her mother died, her father remarried a proud, cruel woman who had two daughters of her own. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters were jealous of her beauty and goodness. They forced her to do all the hardest chores in the house, scrubbing floors, cooking meals, and cleaning fireplaces. Because she often sat among the ashes, they mockingly called her Cinderella. Though she was treated unkindly, Cinderella never complained. She remained gentle and kind to all creatures, especially the birds and mice who became her friends. The king's baloney day, the king announced a grand ball at the palace. His son, the prince, was to choose a bride, and all the young ladies of the land were invited. The stepsisters were overjoyed and spent days preparing dresses, ribbons, and jewels. Cinderella longed to go, but her stepmother sneered, "You go to the ball? You have no fine clothes. Stay here and scrub the floors." On the evening of the ball, the stepsisters swept away in their gowns, leaving Cinderella behind in tears. The fairy godmother suddenly, a kindly old woman appeared. It was Cinderella's fairy godmother. "Do not cry, my child," she said gently. "You shall go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, she touched a pumpkin, and it turned into a golden coach. Mice became fine horses, a rat became the coachman, and lizards turned into footmen. Then she touched Cinderella's ragged dress, and it became a gown of shimmering silver and gold, with delicate glass slippers on her feet. "Go to the ball," said the fairy godmother, "but remember you must return before midnight, for then the magic will end." The ball. Cinderella arrived at the palace, and all eyes turned to her. She was so radiant and graceful that no one recognized her as a sooty servant girl. The prince was captivated. He danced only with her, and they spoke together as though they had known each other forever. The night flew by, and the clock struck midnight. Terrified, Cinderella ran from the palace. As she fled, one of her glass slippers slipped from her foot. She dared not return for it and hurried home, where her gown turned back into rags. The lost slippers prince, determined to find the mysterious maiden, took the glass slipper and declared, "I will marry the woman whom this slipper fits." He traveled through the land, and every young lady tried on the slipper, but it fit none. At last, he came to Cinderella's house. The stepsisters pushed and shoved, even trying to force their feet into the slipper, but it was no use. Then Cinderella asked to try. Her stepmother laughed cruelly, but the prince allowed it. To everyone's amazement, the slipper fit perfectly. At that moment, Cinderella drew from her pocket the other glass slipper and put it on. Her fairy godmother's magic returned, and she stood before them in her dazzling gown. Happily ever after's prince knew at once that she was the one he loved. He lifted her into his carriage, and they were married soon after in a grand ceremony. Cinderella forgave her stepsisters for their cruelty, though they were ashamed of their past behavior. From then on, Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after, and her days of sorrow were gone forever. Moral of the story: kindness, patience, and goodness are always rewarded. Cruelty and pride bring only shame. True worth lies within the heart, not in riches or beauty alone.